Shalom, family. There he is. All praises. Everybody doing today? Tired from Esau's work? Yeah, Con, I am too. I definitely am too. I wish I didn't have to go to work for Esau. You know, but unfortunately we in this captivity, but is that gonna stop us from acknowledging the Lord's days? Let me put this behind me. Salaki, 1 second. All right. Shalom to everybody that's online. Shalom. Happy Purim. Happy Purim. All right. This is our month of Adar. All right. And we are celebrating our Purim. So happy Purim to everybody that is online. All right. So whose first time is this celebrating Purim? Raise your hand. Oh, okay. Okay. First time. Whose first time is this hearing the story of Purim? Shalom, King. That's my boy right there. Whose first time is it? Hearing the story? Okay. All right. Got 2 people in here. You heard the story of Purim before? Huh? Oh, no? Okay. Okay. Come. All praises. All praises. The story of Purim is a beautiful one. All right. Look up the word memorial for me. Give me the definition of memorial real quick. All right. Purim is a memorial. Okay. We're going to get the definition of memorial real quick. Let me get that. Get the definition of memorial. All right. Everybody celebrate Memorial Day? Good. I bet not have seen no hands. Jacob almost said Khan. I seen his face. All right. Now I'm playing, but this is a memorial. Let's get the definition of memorial.
Memorial. Something, especially a structure, established to remind people of a person or event.
All right. So this is a memorial. This is to remind us of a person and an event that took place. All right. And it's a beautiful story. So let's not haste. Let's get right into it. Our story begins in Esther chapter 1, verse 1. I'm going to make this very sweet, nice, and to the point because I definitely want a fellowship tonight and I don't want it to get too late. So this is going to be a nice, sweet, and to the point class. If you don't know what the memorial of Purim is about, you will know by the end of this. Let's get that. Esther chapter 1, verse 1.
The book of Esther chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even into Ethiopia, over 107 provinces. That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was at Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants.
All right, read.
The power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him.
So King Ahasuerus was the king of Persia and Media. All right, the Persian and Mede Empire. Okay, so the Persian and Mede Empire comes directly after the Babylonian Empire. All right, once the Babylonian Empire was done away with, the Persian Medes came up. So King Ahasuerus made a great feast. Right, read.
Verse 4. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days.
Okay, so he had his days that he was celebrating. He had the king commanded that there should be a feast. Right, read.
And when those days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both unto great and small, 7 days, in the court of the garden of the king's palace, where was white, green.
So he made a big feast. All right, let's skip. The king made a big, glorious feast. Right? Let's go to verse 9. Sisters, pay attention to this story. You will learn something dealing with this story. All right? Brothers, pay attention to the story. You will learn something. But especially my sisters, because this is a story about your foremother and the attributes that she had. Without these attributes, the nation of Israel probably will be no more. Okay? But let's see what took place during the king's feast. Read verse 9.
Verse 9. Also Vashti the queen.
Vashti. All right. Vashti was a queen. All right. At this time. All right. Ahasuerus was the king. Vashti was the queen. Read.
Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the woman in the royal house which belonged to King
And
Ahasuerus.
she made a feast for the sisters. Right? Well, for her sisters, for the women. All right. Read.
On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with
And
wine,
you know how brothers get when they drink wine, right? When men in general drink wine, the brother was happy. His heart was merry. What is wine? What is wine meant for? To be merry. So the king, he partying. He drinking his good wine. That was some good wine. That wasn't the wine that make you have a headache or none of that. He partying. He drinking his wine, and guess what? He happy. And just guess what he says. Read.
the king was merry with wine. He commanded Haman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abatha, Zethar, and Carcass, and 7 chamberlains that
Good
served.
reading, boy. Good reading. Go ahead. boy, I told him you got to be on this piece of Q's today because we got a lot of reading to do. Read.
The 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king.
So Ahasuerus got his chamberlains and was like, "Hey man, y'all come here, right? Read, because he happy. Read.
To bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal.
Now you know when a man is happy, who he want before him? His woman. So the king like, "Hey, come here. Go tell my wife to come before me. I want to see her." He's happy, right? Read.
To show the people and the princess her beauty.
And all he wanted to do was show her off. Look at my beautiful woman, right? Because Vashti was beautiful. So he wanted to show her off, right? Read.
For she was fair to look on.
Uh-huh.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's
She said,
commandment.
I don't want to go before you. I don't like when you drink, king, because your breath stink. I don't want to see you. I'm chilling with the women. Tell him leave me alone. No, this is what, yeah. When the king told her, go get my wife, what did she say? Read.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the
She
king's
refused
commandment.
to come. You know what refuse means? Not she asked could she not come. She refused to come. That means she was like, I'm not coming, king. Now what y'all think gonna happen after that?
Off with her head.
How many of the sisters will tell the king that? How many sisters want to marry a king? Look, nobody hand went up now. Look. Okay, that's why I asked you. Okay, so if he tell you to come here, you know what you got to do? See, you got to think twice. Yeah, because you know back in the ancient days, if I believe Gadol is a king, but back in the ancient days, if he was in his rulership and he told you to come here, you said no. What you say? Off of what? Who said off with her head? Gadol did. The king did. No, this is real. This is real. This is something. See, America gave our sisters too much power. It's never been like this. This is no disrespect to my sisters. I love my sisters, and this is nothing to my women in here. This is just abroad. There's never been a time where women rule like they rule today. Y'all know that's prophecy, right? Scripture says that in those days, a woman, there should be a new thing in the earth. Scripture says a new thing. A woman shall compass a man. Right? So Vashti, she said, I'm not coming, right? Read.
Therefore was the king very wroth.
Now you know what wroth means? Wroth means he was hot, right? Read.
Therefore the king was very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Can you imagine you a king and you tell your wife to come here and she tell you no? You know what your royal palace gonna be thinking? Oh, well, you just told me no. I gotta listen to him. Oh, I'm sorry, king. You see how his wife told him no? Can you imagine the king? You a king? Everybody bow down to you on the drop of a dime. You put them horns out. Everybody got to drop. You tell your wife to come here. She tell you no. Right? He was mad. Now he's stuck. Because if he don't do something, he's going to be looked upon as a weak man. Watch this. Read.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment.
Read.
And the next unto him was Karshina, Shathar, Amatha.
Okay, go to verse 15.
Verse 15.
All right, so he asked his wise man what he should do. Let's skip to 15. Read.
What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law?
He's like, how should we deal with her? Because she's not acting, she's acting unruly. What should I do with her? Read.
Because she have not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlain.
Because I asked her to come here and she ain't came here. So what should we do? Right? Read.
And Mordecai answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen have not done wrong to the king only.
Now, one of his wise men was like, Vashti, she ain't did wrong only to you. Who else did she do wrong to? Read?
But also to all the princes.
He's like, she did wrong to all the princes because they gonna disrespect. Oh, and you see what girl? Girl, you go, girl. She had her man in check. You seen that? Ooh, she told her man. Y'all seen that movie, The Color Purple? Remember? All's my life I had to fight. That woman was headstrong as hell. Now, unfortunately, in the movie, if you pay attention to that movie, the man in the movie was he wasn't a dominant man. He didn't know how to rule his own territory. So he was getting bullied by her the whole movie until he thought, well, my dad beat his woman, so maybe I should punch her. That's not the way to go. But it was because he couldn't rule her. So all my life I had to fight. In that movie, she was the toughest, roughest, beating everybody up. Is that how women are supposed to be? That's the image that they perpetrate to you. That's the image that they perpetrate to the sisters, right? So the prince was like, look, if you got one woman that's going to act like that, now all the men going to have problem in their houses now. Because they're going to be like, Vashti have the king in check. You think you got to listen to him. Right? Watch this, read.
And to all the people that are in the provinces.
And not even just the people that's princes and rulers. He says to all the people, just all the men in general, because it's going to trickle down. Next thing you know what you might have a society of? A bunch of women giving orders to the men. So this is what the wise man is telling the Ahasuerus, like, we got to do something about this. All right, watch this, read.
Verse 17. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, so that they shall despise their husband in their eyes.
You see that? What does it mean by they should despise their husband in their eyes? Huh? A little deeper than look down upon. What do women do all the time? Come here, Vashti. Told me to come here. I gotta come here. You know, women know how to disrespect with their eyes. Rolling your eyes. You know, women get the snarl in the lip, the snap in the neck. Y'all know, sisters know, we all been in the world before. Hopefully we not doing that now. But we know how it is. We know how sisters act in the world to their husband. Their husband, can you make me a sandwich, babe? Make your own sandwich. Right? It says he's going to be disrespect with the what, read?
And they shall despise their husband in their eyes.
In their eyes. So what does that mean? You could disrespect your husband without even saying a word. You could disrespect your husband with just your attitude. Right? That's what it's talking about, right? Watch this, read.
When it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
Right, read.
Likewise shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
You see that? Contempt and wrath. What does that mean? That means in the households of these different individuals, it's going to be wrath and contempt. Fighting, arguing, raising up. They like, king, you got to do something about this. If you don't, we didn't think that little bit of disrespect from a sister went a long way, did we? No, you can learn something from this story. Watch what happens, right? Read.
If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him.
It says, if it please the king, let there go a royal commandment, read.
And let it be written among the laws of the Persians and Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus.
It's like, you know what? She cannot, I don't care how much you love her, Ahasuerus, you got to let her go. She cannot come among you anymore. Read.
And let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
And go get another woman. Sisters is thinking about that, like, what? Go get another woman? Yeah. Go get another woman, and everything that you was giving her, go give it to another woman. Now, I'm going to ask y'all again. Everybody are the sisters, right? We married to kings in here. We're supposed to be married to kings. Are you supposed to want to be married to a king? Well, you got to give a king respect. But watch this. This is so cold, though. Even if it's something that you don't want to do, because you're going to see something with Esther here. This is very important with the story of Esther. You're going to see why Esther was honored. We're honoring Esther for a reason. It wasn't just because our enemies were delivered in her hand. It was because of an attribute that she had. She did something that she did not necessarily want to do, but she did it anyway. Watch this, read.
Verse 20.
Uh-huh.
And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor.
You see that? He made a decree that all the wives shall give honor to their husbands. Read.
Both to great and small.
It don't matter how rich you are. Don't matter if you ain't King David. Well, you ain't this. Well, you ain't that. He said, mighty or small, you got to give honor to your husband. Prince, king, peasant, you got to give honor to your husband. That was a decree that went out. Right? Read.
And the same pleased the king and the princes. And the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all.
So the king sent letters and he made this a decree, right? Let's go to verse chapter 2. Chapter 2, and let's skip down. Let's read read 1. Chapter 2 and 1.
Esther chapter 2, verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeared.
So now appeased, he was happy, right? So he wasn't angry anymore, right? He laid down a decree, right? Read.
He remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king.
So now the king got to get a new wife. He got to get a new queen. So they're like, look, go get the virgins, the young women, bring them before you, and you find out which one you want to take, which one you want to make your new queen, right? Read.
And let the king appoint offices in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins into Shushan the palace, to the house of the woman, unto the custody of Hedge, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the woman, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleased the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so.
So the king was like, all right, I need to find a new wife now. Y'all seen Coming to America? Remember we had to find him a wife? The same thing. King was like, I need to find a new woman that's going to take the place of Vashti. Right? Read. Now, and let me tell y'all this. This doesn't mean that Vashti, right, was no more in front of the king anymore, but she was still living in the royal palace. Let me just make this clear. She was kicked out to fend for herself. You understand? It wasn't like she was, well, I don't gotta see it. Because what would that do? What good would that? She didn't want to be before the king anyway. So what would that hurt her to be in the palace but not to see him again? No. She was gone. She's out. So no more before the king, meaning Vashti is out. So she went from having everything to on the streets. Now, king brings some other young woman in, and watch what happened. Read.
Verse 5. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai.
Now, this is where Mordecai, all right, Mordecai comes in. This is a memorial of Esther and Mordecai, right? These were beautiful individuals, right? Read.
The son of Jair, the son of Shamiah, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
It's funny because he was a Benjamite, right? Read.
Who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity, which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away.
And he was carried away in captivity under Babylon, and then the Persians came into power, and he's in the Persian captivity. Read.
And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther.
All right, Hadassah, that's her Hebrew name, which is Esther, right? But Hadassah is her name, right? And she's renamed or looked at as Esther, right? But her name is Hadassah, right? Read.
His uncle's daughter.
All right, and this was his niece, right? Esther or Hadassah was his niece. Read.
For she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful.
And she was fair and beautiful. Read.
Whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
And he took her as his daughter, right? This is her uncle, but he's raising her as his daughter. Read.
So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together into Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggah, that Esther was brought also into the king's house, to the custody of Haggah, keeper of the woman.
You see that? So now, she was also brought, all right? She was also brought. to the king. All right. So the king's commandment was to get all the beautiful maidens. Read.
And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maids into the best place of the house of the woman. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the woman's house to know how Esther did.
So now, when Esther went, Mordecai didn't denounce that. He said, "No, you got to go do what you got to do." Esther, she had to do what she had to do towards the king. She couldn't say, "To hell with that damn heathen." No, she didn't do that. She had to use wisdom, and it was a reason for the wisdom that she actually showed. And she behaved herself in a peaceful, kindful manner. All right. She obtained kindness from him. Right. Read.
And Mordecai walked every day before the court in the woman's house to know how Esther did and what should become of her. Now, when every maid's turn was come to go into the king Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of the woman, for so were the days of their purification accomplished. So wit,
read verse 13.
Verse 13. Then thus came every maiden to the king. Whatsoever she desired was given her to go with her out of the house of the woman into the king's house.
Read.
In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned into the second house of the woman, to the custody.
So basically what the king is doing is he's dating all the women. He's like, "I'm going to see who I like among the women." He already got or has some type of favor towards Esther. Okay? He already has some type of favor towards her, but he's still trying to see, who am I going to bring in to replace Vashti? Okay? So, but she has favor already, right? Read.
To the custody of Shahazgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She came into the king no more, except the king delighted in her, and that she were called by name.
See that? So the king picking who he wanted to come before him. And whoever he didn't call, they never came before him again. All right, read.
Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go into the king, she required nothing but what Hegai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the woman, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her.
She had favor. Read.
So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus, into his house royal in the 12th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women.
The king loved Esther above all the women. Why do you think the king loved Esther above all the women? Think about that for a second. If you don't know, it's okay. We're going to show you why. He loved Esther above all the women, right? Read.
The king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight.
And she obtained grace and favor in his sight. Read.
More than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
He made her queen, right, for a reason, because it was the way her spirit was, and the way she carried herself, and the way she was humble, the way she delighted in the king, the way she served the king. You understand? And she made the she wasn't just pretty. It wasn't just you got a pretty face. It was how she moved towards the king. We'll see. Watch, read.
Verse 18. And the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast. And he made a release to the provinces and gave gifts according to the state of the king.
You see that she won over his heart. How did she win over his heart? By being submissive to her king. Even though, we're going to read, she necessarily didn't want to do this, but she had to do it. Why? Because the Lord set up something that she was going to have to do greater. But she couldn't accomplish this without being in her what? Feminine energy. She couldn't be masculine. The whole point of this story, right? One half of the story, I would say, is showing that women in masculine energy, they don't go far with men. You're either going to have two things with a woman in masculine energy. You're either going to have a man that's a punk, and you're going to bully him all the time, and you're going to eventually not want to be with him because you're running him. or you're going to keep clashing with your man. So where y'all going to be fighting every day. Every day y'all going to bump heads. So you either going to have a punk who you're not going to be with anyway. How many women want to be with a mama's boy type of man? Raise your hand. When you think of a man, what do you think? You think dominance, right? Think dominance? Women think dominance. They think strong, take care of you, like leadership. Well, that doesn't work if you desire that same leadership. There's no such thing as a 50-50 relationship if you want a man. It doesn't work like that. Somebody has to lead and somebody has to take the back seat. And I don't want to hear nobody say, well, yeah, no, I know some people with 50-50 know the woman running. Period. You know how we know that? Because there's a popular saying in the world, what? Happy what? Happy what? Y'all know. Happy wife, happy what? Every man that I know in the world that's married says that to me. You gotta bring it home to the wife. Happy wife, happy life. No, that's not what. Happy husband, happy life. You see how that kind of struck a nerve? Like that don't sound right to the ears of the happy husband, happy wife. Yeah, because who's the head? If not, you're gonna always have problems in your marriage. And you know who found out the hard way? Vashti. She found out the hard way. Right? Watch this. Read.
Verse 19. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, the Mordecai sat in the king's gate.
Now, I like how Mordecai is sitting back and he playing the fence on the whole thing. He's sitting back. Well, he even give counsel to Esther on how she should be. He even tell her how she should be. Because you don't think Mordecai like, man, you about to come up. Esther, you better go in there. You better do what he asked you to do. Do what the scriptures, the law. Because why was she like that in the first place? Because she followed the law. What does the scripture say about a man and a woman? Who's the head? The man. So you better go, do what you gotta do, be good, be feminine, be a woman to this dude. Because guess what? We're gonna be in a better position, right? Watch this, read.
Verse 20. Esther had not yet showed her kindred nor her people.
But he didn't know that she was a Jew. Read.
As Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. Read. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. So Mordecai actually saved the king Ahasuerus, saved him, right? That is important. So remember that. Mordecai actually saved him by telling Esther what was going to happen to him. There was a assassination attempt against his life. Okay, that's important. So don't forget that in the story. Let's keep reading. Go to chapter 3, start at verse 1. Verse 1. After these things, did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. Now,
Haman, this is another character. You have Ahasuerus, you have Vashti, who was gone, probably living on the street somewhere now. You have Esther, and you have Mordecai. All right, these are the four key players in this story. Okay, so Haman was an Agagite. What nationality is that, brothers? He was an Edomite. Okay, but the king liked him, and the king put him in a powerful position. Read.
And advanced him.
Pay attention to this story, sisters. Watch this. Read.
And set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
And he was above everybody. He was second to none, only the king. Read.
And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed in reverence.
And all the king's servants bowed to him. Read.
And reverence Haman. For the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not.
Mordecai was like, I ain't bowing to that Edomite. Everybody bowed down except Mordecai. That's why I love this story with Mordecai, because Mordecai was stubborn, wasn't he? Mordecai said, I am not bowing down to that heathen, period. But everybody else had to bow down, right? Read.
Nor did him reverence.
And he didn't reverence him, meaning he didn't respect him. Read.
Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, why transgresseth thou the king's commandment?
Because that was the king. What was the king's commandment? That everybody was supposed to respect and listen to him. Read.
Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not
He
unto
still,
them.
they begged him. Mordecai, bow to Haman. He was like, I am not bowing to him. Period. Read.
That they told Haman to see.
So then they finally tell Haman. And what you think Haman going to do when he find this out? Read.
to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew.
So he's like, all right, I'm going to go to him and I'm going to see if he keep that same energy. Right? Oh, and he a Jew? Don't the Edomites hate the Jews? Yeah, they been hating the Jews. So he found out he was a Jew too? Oh, yeah. Read.
And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full around.
Haman went to him, and you know what Mordecai still didn't do? Bow. So this made Haman, you know how Edomites are prideful, right? This made him upset, very angry. Can you imagine you at work and you tell your white boss you ain't doing something? He's gonna look at you like you a peasant. Probably fire you on the spot. Tell your white boss you ain't doing something at work. Any Edomite that's in power, tell him, I be at work all day and I see how they walk. They look at you like you're nothing. If depending on what type of job you have, if you're working with the ones that's prestige and top upper management, oh yeah. It's been many times I walked in the room and felt uncomfortable. They like, I can tell they thinking, what is this nigga doing in here? No, it's a fact. You feel that energy when you're in their neighborhoods. You understand? So imagine at this time when they have this much power and they tell a Jew to bow down and he say no. Right? Read.
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone. For they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews.
He said, you know what? I'm not just going to kill Mordecai. I'm going to kill all of y'all. You know what? Oh, you don't want to bow down? I'm not just going to kill you. I'm going to kill every single one of your people. Right? Read.
That were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus.
The whole kingdom. Read.
Even the people of Mordecai.
Read.
In the first month, that is, the month of Nisan, or Nisan, is in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur.
Okay, go to verse 13 in that same chapter. Let's get to the point.
Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews.
So he wanted to kill and cause to perish all Jews. Read.
Both young and old.
He said young and old. So you think he was sparing the little babies? What about the little girls? He said we're going to kill all the Jews, right? Read.
Little children and women.
Children and women. He spared no one, right? Now, could he do this? Yeah, because he had power. Who was greater than him other than the king? No one. So he put this decree out, right, Reed?
In one day.
And he wanted to do this in one day. Much bloodshed that was going to be. Baby, children, woman, Reed.
Even upon the 13th day, the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
On the 13th day of the 12th month, which is Adar, he said we're going to take the spoil for a prey, right? Meaning we're going to kill them and take what they have. Read.
The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out, being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city Shushan was perplexed.
So, and the king okayed this. So you know what Haman did? Let me get my drink, and all my enemies gonna be destroyed. And he was happy. He was drinking his wine. Why? All that slaughter was about to happen. You understand? Now watch this. Read. Let's go. Go to chapter 4 now and start at verse 1.
Verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes.
Mordecai was sad, read.
And put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate. For none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was a great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes.
You see that? So Israel was in mourning because they're literally about to. That's like, imagine America, like every black and Latino man and woman is about to die. Literally, and there's nothing you can do. Send out the National Guard, arm yourselves with your automatic rifles, your AKs and all of that, and go to every black and Latino, round them up, and shoot them all dead. Literally, all the women and children. So little Cheyenne to little Moshe to the eldest of us in here. Everybody gotta die. Right? So they mourning, they're sad, right? Read.
Verse 4. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her.
Now Esther, this news was brought to her. Read.
Then was the king, then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take away his sackcloth from him.
And she was sad and grieved, but remember, she was in the king's palace, so Mordecai couldn't come in the king's palace unless he had other different clothes on. So she sent him normal raiment, took the sackcloth off so she can speak to him. Read.
But he received it not. Then called Esther for her touch.
But he was so sad he didn't even want to come up before her and speak. Read.
One of the king's chamberlains, which he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was.
So she wanted to know, Mordecai, what's going on, right? Read.
So Hattach went forth to Mordecai to the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasure for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her.
So basically, he's telling her what's going on. And what did he charge her? Watch this, read.
And to charge her that she should go in unto the king.
And he Mordecai like, Esther, you gotta go to the king. You need to go do something about this. You need to go fix this, right? Read.
To make supplication unto him.
He like, you gotta make some supplication. You gotta do something. Go talk to the king because all your people about to die. Read.
And to make requests before him for her people.
And she like, go make requests. So what was another thing that Esther was about? She was about her people. So in order for you to be about your people, you know what that you have to be? You have to be what? Selfless. So she was selfless, read.
And Hattach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again, Esther spake unto Hattach and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. And the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come into the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death.
She said, well, I would go and talk to the king for you, Mordecai, but I can't because there's a law that no one can go before the king unless he calls them. You understand? So that means you cannot come before him unless he literally calls you. Delvan, come before me. If I don't call for you and you come before me, you die. So she's telling Mordecai, I don't know what I can do because he hasn't summoned me. Read.
Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in into the king's these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai Esther's word.
And they told this to Mordecai, read.
Then Mordecai commanded to answer, Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house, more than all the Jews.
Mordecai like, look, Esther, don't think because you queen that you gonna escape. Right? Read.
For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place.
That's cold. Mordecai like, the Most High gonna save Israel. But if you don't do this, he gonna save Israel. And read.
But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed.
But the Most High gonna kill you for not doing what I'm asking you to do. Because the Most High gonna use somebody else to save Israel. You know, the Most High will never be without the people. But if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're gonna get destroyed. But what kind of position is that for Esther? That's a tough position. She didn't say, F you, Mordecai, I don't know, it ain't my problem. She didn't do that. She was afraid, but she knew she had what she had to do. Either or, it wasn't looking good for her. So what else did Esther have to have? She was selfless. She was humble, she was submissive, and what else was she? Courageous, and she had faith in the Lord. So a lot of times what our sisters be missing. Sometimes, and not even just our sisters, brothers too. Brothers can learn from this too. Sometimes we try to take things in our own hands because something's not going the way we want it to go. And instead of letting the Lord take it, we take the wheel. You know that saying, Jesus take the wheel? We don't let Jesus take the wheel. We take the wheel. Oh, that's not fair. That's just not right. I shouldn't have to go. I shouldn't have to. Well, why I gotta do? Well, why? We do that all the time, men and women here. When the Lord has every right to kill everybody in here, how dare we have anything that we have to say of why we going through, why this happened, why this, why that? No one in here and no one online, no one in the world of our people should ever say why. Because the Lord is showing us way more mercy than what we believe, or should have, I should say, right? Or believe we should have. So he told her this, right? Read.
And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
He's like, look, Esther, the Most High probably delivered you and gave you the favor of the king for this specific time. So you need to put your faith on, and you need to do what I'm asking you to do. Read.
Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go, rather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days.
Now, and notice how she didn't have no pride, like, Mordecai got it. I'm gonna go talk to the king. I got it. Don't trip. Notice how she was like, hey, can you at least fast for me and pray for me? Because I don't know what's about to happen. She didn't have that Vashti attitude, like, whatever. She said, I don't know what's about to happen. Read.
Night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king.
She fasted as well. Read.
Which is not according to the law. If I perish, I perish.
She said, I'm going to go to the king. Now, check what she said. She said, if I die, then I die. How many of y'all are willing to give your life for the Lord? We can't even make our man a sandwich. She about to die. Are risking her life. You understand? Watch this. Read.
Verse 17. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Chapter 5, verse 1.
Yeah, start 1. Yeah, come.
Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel.
All right, so they fasted 3 days. Esther, she got dolled up, right? Because what man want to see his woman dolled up? Every single one. So she put on some nice apparel, got dolled up, read.
And stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
Now, did Esther know her man? Yeah, she did. She said, I'm not going to go straight to him. She said, I'm going to use wisdom. I'm going to put on nice apparel. I'm going to put that good smell he like on. And I'm going to just stand somewhere far off in his presence. Because I know that if he sees me, he's going to want to talk to me. What does that tell you, sisters? Sometimes to get your way, you got to know how to deal with your husband. Now, that doesn't mean get your way in a wicked way, but let's say you want some favor from your husband. Should you go in there? I'm going to be honest with y'all. Nigga, it better be it. I'm serious. How the fellas gonna respond? We gonna want you to get the hell out of our face. Because one thing that you gotta learn, and what your foremothers understood about men is that men do not respond well to aggression. All right? Men do not respond well to aggression. See, the hard part about being a man in a relationship with a woman is this. If I call Delvon stupid and dumb, Delvon, what is your reaction going to be? Naturally, if you don't know me. Right. Yeah, defense. You're going to be ready to. If I went to my cousin and call, what brother in here that don't know my cousin, see him on the street, going to go call him an idiot? You know why? Because it's only one thing that's about to happen, right? It's only one way you can go. Somebody got to submit. Men, animals know that. When the two male lions fight, they're going to fight to the death until one male submit. See, men have that common respect. Women don't have that. Because you can't hit me. So you got a 4'11" girl calling a 6'9" dude a punk. And the reason why they're comfortable, because they don't have that same, a 4'11" dude ain't going to call 6'9" dude a punk. Because there's only one thing that's going to happen. So women have that feeling of, I'm a woman. I'm protected because I'm a woman. Sometimes that don't work. Right? Sometimes that don't work. But the point is, you don't either, sometimes it don't work because a man, unfortunately, we're not promoting this, but sometimes a man hits a woman back, which is not good. Not good at all. Or a man just leaves. Normally, what men do is they just leave. They'll leave. So the thing about it is, she understood her dude. She understood the king. I can't just bust in the palace. King, I need to talk to you. No, she can't do that. She got to understand how to deal with her king, right? Watch this, read. So what she do? She put on her nice clothes, put on royal apparel, right? Read.
Verse 2. And it was so, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight.
Now, brothers, what is a man's kryptonite? A submissive woman. Every single brother in here, we not like Neo when you're mad. No. That's fairy tales. No man likes a woman with attitude. Period. But when your wife come in, can I keep it a buck with y'all? Can I be real? I'm gonna be honest with y'all today. So y'all gonna have to bear with me. This is the truth, right? This is the truth. If a woman want a Gucci purse, what is gonna make her chances of getting that purse high? A, her man come home from work and she got the bath going, she got the food cooking, she got his favorite drink, she massaged his back while he ate his meal, he got in the tub. Some of y'all ain't gonna like this. She massaged his feet, she oiled his legs, she laid him down, and she cuddled with him. Versus, as soon as he come in, he might leave his shoes in the wrong place in the house. Why you gotta leave your shoes in the wrong place in the house? And why you gotta and why you gotta you know what he gonna do? Oh, and by the way, I want this bag. A or B, brothers. There better not be no Neos in here. Talking about when you mad. That's a bullcrap song. Ain't no when you mad. That's some stuff you just do. When you just land with a woman, but you got no commitment. Because no man in a committed relationship want his woman mad. Right? So when she went to the king, right, she put on that nice apparel, put on that nice garment, put on that nice fragrance, right? Read.
That she obtained favor in his sight.
And she got favor, right? Read.
And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter.
And he handed the scepter to her, because remember, you only can talk to him when he points the scepter at you, right? And she grew. Now, what did she do? She got a little finesse in her. She touched the scepter. How you think she touched the scepter? Like this? No, she touched it. Men like that, right? Softness. Let's be honest. This is the Bible. This is a book of truth. This is not we're not playing games here. The Bible is a book of truth. I know we all came from Christian background. We're not used to the Bible speaking so roughly about certain things. And she flirting with the king, though. Watch this. Read. How many brothers like when their wife flirt with them? Every single brother that's married in here. How many brothers like when a woman in general flirt with them? Every single brother. You're not going to act like this is not reality. This is the reality, right? So she flirting a little bit with the king, read.
Verse
Because how many men, if he put the scepter to Haman, you think Haman gonna touch it? No, he not. He gonna be like, "What's up, king? I'm here. What's good?" He not gonna. You're not about to do that. Am I lying? No. King probably would have put him to death right there. You understand? But watch this, read.
Verse 3.
Uh-huh.
Then said the king unto her, "What wilt thou, Queen Esther?
He's like, "What you want?" Read.
And what is thy request?"
He's like, "Tell me anything you want." He buttered up now. He opened like a book. You know, read.
"It shall be even given thee to the half of the
He's
kingdom."
like, "Man, I'll give you whatever you want to the half of the kingdom." She doing her job, right? Read.
And Esther answered, "If it seem good unto the king."
Look how she answered though. She didn't say, "I need you to do this for me." She said, "If it seems good to you." All those little things, those little nuances that matter. Look how she's speaking to him. If it seems good. He just told her you can have whatever you want. She's still, if it seems good to you. You know what? Men like that. You know the saying opposites attract? Yeah. That's why you got these women today. You just intimidated by me. No, men don't want a masculine. We could go get a man then. Men go get marry a man. What man want to marry a man? That's Hebrew and straight. Because you might have somebody in here. I want to marry a man. You never know. This world is wicked. But no heterosexual man wants to deal with a masculine woman. So it's not that a man is intimidated by you. He's just not going to deal with you. Why take on a headache? So she's coming to him in straight, complete feminine energy, right? Read.
And Esther answered, "If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day into the banquet that I have prepared for him." Then the king said, "Cause Haman to make haste."
Now she's like, now this is how powerful Esther was. And this is what women don't understand about the power that the Most High has given you to aid your husband and to be that rest and that help me for him. She got more power than Haman. Who has more authority than Haman in the kingdom, as we read? Nobody. But she has authority to summon him. Do y'all understand what I'm telling you? So who has more power than Haman? Esther. Because anytime you summon somebody, now if Haman would have, I ain't coming before Esther, what you think the king would have did? He would have killed him. She summoned him, right? Watch this, read. Remember, Haman wants to destroy the Israelites, read.
Then the king said, "Cause Haman to make haste."
He said, "Cause Haman to make haste." You know what that means? Tell him to hurry up. My wife said he needs to be here. Tell him to come right now. You think he would have did that for if she was headstrong? Absolutely. She would have been like Vashti, somewhere on the street. All right. What future say? She belonged to the what? Haman been saying that. I mean, Ahasuerus been saying that. You understand? The scriptures been saying that. Really? Read.
That he may do as Esther has said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. The king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, "What is thy petition? It shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed." Then answered Esther and said, "My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition."
You see that? There go that sweet talk again. Read.
"And to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them. And I will do tomorrow as the king have said." Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with glad heart.
And Haman was happy. Oh, the queen? The queen want to see me? Man, I'm probably doing good. Man, read.
But when Haman saw Mordecai at the king's gate.
But Haman saw Mordecai. Because why was Mordecai there? Because that's Esther's uncle. So when Haman saw Mordecai, read.
That he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation.
And Mordecai still not listening to Haman. That's like I'm walking and He's standing in front of him by the gate, and Haman like, move. And he just standing there, moving nowhere. You go around me. Haman hot now. What's this, Reed?
He was full of indignation against Mordecai.
He hated Mordecai after that. He said, man, I hate this dude. I cannot wait till my decree on that day, on the 13th of the month, is that so all of them could die, Reed.
Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself.
But Haman was cool. Why? Because he was going to the banquet, Reed.
And when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him before the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king into the banquet that she had prepared but myself. And tomorrow am I invited into her also with the king.
She happy. So who got authority right now? Esther got authority, but do she have authority like I'm the boss? What did they? I'm the head. Be in charge. Did she have that attitude? No, she didn't. But she had the authority because she had her husband's what? Heart. And Haman is happy. Read.
Yeah, all this availeth me nothing. So long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
But he was happy. He got all the riches, got everything he wanted. But just the fact that him seeing Mordecai made him pissed off to put. He didn't even care about none of that. That's how much he hated Haman. He hated Haman so much. He was like, man, I got everything. I'm going to the banquet with the king and the queen tomorrow, but I cannot stand Mordecai. It's like every time I see him, he just irritates me. It's like they kept clashing. Watch this, read.
Then says Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high.
He said, let the gallows be made. I know what a gallows is? That's where you hang. He said, make it 50 feet high. Read.
And tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon.
And when you go before the king and Esther, tell the king you want Mordecai to be put to death. Read.
Then go thou and marry me with the king into the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman. And he caused a gallows to be made.
And he was like, you know what? That's a good idea. He made the gallows, right? Now, let's go to chapter 6, verse 1.
Chapter 6, verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep. And he commanded to bring the book of records of the Chronicles. And they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh.
Y'all remember when Mordecai saved the king? Remember that? I told y'all to remember that? So king couldn't sleep. So he started to read the books of the Chronicles of the dealings that the king had. And he found out that Mordecai saved him. Read.
2 of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been made to Mordecai for this?
You see that? But remember, this happened before Haman could sit before Esther and the king. So he ended up finding out what Mordecai did. He like, did Mordecai get rewarded for this? Right? Read.
Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him.
He said, nah, nothing was done for him. Read.
And the king said, who is in the court?
He said, who is in the court? Read.
Now Haman was coming to the outward court.
It just so happened, Haman coming in the outward court. He's strolling in. Read.
Of the king's house.
Read.
To speak unto the king to hang Mordecai.
And he's coming in there to talk about killing Mordecai. Read.
On the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court.
So Haman coming to the king to tell the king, can you kill Mordecai? And the king is like, well, who's in the court? Because I need to figure out what to do to give Mordecai a blessing. The king's chamberlains is like, hey, Haman's in the court. Read.
And the king said, let him come in.
He's like, man, tell him to come here. Read.
So Haman came in. And the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the Salakia? So Haman came in. And the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man who the king delighted to honor?
He's like, what should be done to the man that honored the king and saved the king's life? Mind you, Haman doesn't know who this man is. Watch this, read.
Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than myself?
He's like, oh, you see the pride of Esau? He's like, he gotta be talking about me. Oh, the king want to do something good for me. Oh, okay. I'm gonna say exactly what I want because I know the king. This is a trick the king is doing. He want to do something for me. So, but he want me to tell him what I want without. Yeah, it's a game. I'm gonna tell him what I want. Read.
And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighted to honor,
Be like, this is what you should do, king. Read.
let the royal apparel be brought which the king uses to wear.
He said, get the king's clothes. You see Haman? See Esau? Get your clothes, king. Put it on him. Read.
And the horse that the king rideth upon.
And your horse. Read.
And the crown royal.
And your crown. Remember, he's thinking this is for him. Read.
Which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes.
He thinking, yeah. This is going to be for me. Right, read.
That they may array the men withal whom the king delighted to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man who the king delighted to honor.
He's like, that's what you should do, king. So he waited for the king to say, Haman, take your rightful place, take the crown, take my horse, and ride around in the street and flaunt your power. Well, what happened? Read.
Then the king said to Haman,
read.
Make haste.
Make haste. Read.
And take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
And go do that to Mordecai, king. Haman. You go, everything you said, you do it. Go give it to him so he can do it. Didn't he just go in there to try to get Mordecai killed? Can you imagine how hot he was? See, this is what happens when you trust in the Lord. So you got Esther trusting the Lord and brothers. Who else trusts in the Lord? Mordecai. Trust in the Lord to the point where the Lord blessed him. Let's see how Haman felt about this. Read.
That sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail at all that thou hast
spoken. He said,
spoken.
you better do everything you spoke. You better do it to him. Read.
Then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai.
Can you imagine how Mordecai looked when he gave him all of this? Mordecai probably was smirking. You know how Israel be. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Can you put it on me? Help me on the horse. For real, this is probably. Can you imagine how mad Esau? You know how when we better than Esau? How did Esau feel when we better than him in something? He hated. Go back to slavery. Anytime there's a strong young buck, I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. That's getting his white woman. He hated. What he got to do to him? Kill him. What he do to Emmett Till? Killed him for what? Looking or whistling at a white woman. What he do in sports and segregation and all of those different things? He got us separated because he hates when we're better than him at something. Unless he can manipulate the situation and somehow come out on top. Let you be better than somebody at your job. Well, if you're at a top management job and you work with a lot of Edomites, you outshine those Edomites. They hate it. Watch this. Read. Guys, kids, I need y'all to be quiet. Nala, shh. Read.
Verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, Salaki, verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and brought him on horseback through the street of the city and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighted to honor. Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having
he was
his head
mourning, had his head covered. Read.
And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him.
Now check this out, brothers. Haman told his wife, and what happened? Read.
Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him.
The wife and the wise man. You know what they said? Read.
If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him.
They're like, leave Mordecai alone, man. The wise man and the wife. So, brothers, sometimes you can get wisdom from your wife. Leave him alone. If you do not leave him alone, read.
But shall surely fall before him.
You're going to end up dying. Read.
And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Okay, Khan. So let's go to chapter 7 and let's read verse 1.
Verse 1.
Uh-huh.
So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen.
Mm-hmm.
And the king said unto Esther on the second day of the banquet of wine, What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to have for the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request.
She's like, look, I need a request from my people. Read.
For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish.
Uh-huh.
But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not contravail the king's damage.
Read.
Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he?
They're like, who is this dude that want to kill you and your people? Who? King like hot, like who want to do this? Read.
Who is he? And where is he? Thou durst presume in his heart to do so.
Like, who think that he gonna do that? Who? Now, remember, Haman is who? He the top man. Haman is like the best friend to the king. He the next man in charge. Right? Read.
And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Like, Haman want to do something to us. Watch what the king say. Read.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen.
He was afraid before the king and the queen. Read.
And the king, arising from the banquet of wine, in his wrath, went into the palace garden.
You ever seen like a movie where a king was mad and he didn't say nothing, but he just stood up and he just walked away? That's what he did. He arrived. That's how mad he was. He didn't even say nothing. He just got up, did that, because he's like, you think you're gonna put my woman people to death? The nerve, my beautiful Esther, my delicate flower. What's some nicknames, brothers? My boo-boo. The younger generation. My bae. They say bae anymore? I'm kind of old young. They don't say bae no more. My poo butt, all that, my daddy, whatever. Like you gonna kill my. Oh no, I'm hot. Watch this, read.
And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was.
And Haman like, so the king get up, he dip out. So Haman like, Esther, come on, man. You know how much this. I didn't think, I didn't even know you was a Joe. You don't even tell me you was a John. You know if I would have known you was a Joe, Esther, I wouldn't have did that. What's this, read?
For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
Uh-huh.
Then the king returned out of the palace
And
garden.
the king came back, right? Read.
Into the place of the banquet of wine.
Uh-huh.
And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was.
He was on the bed, meaning he was on his face, his knees, like, please, Esther, please. Look, I did not know. I'm sorry, right? Read.
Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house?
You think you was gonna kill my? That's like, now y'all gotta think about it. We reading it in like the King James. Y'all gotta think about it in your terms of reality. Picture the king come in there, he yelling. You thought you was gonna kill my girl people in front of me? What you thought? You thought you was gonna kill them? Oh, and then you thought maybe you was gonna kill her before me or something? Right. Like that's what you thought you was gonna do? He hot. How many of y'all brothers would be mad if you found out that your best friend was trying to kill your wife? How many of you brothers, if you got a best friend and your best friend slapped your woman? Y'all see that? Best friend or not, you don't want to get out with her. You just hit my girl. What's wrong with you? So who's more important in your life, brothers? Your best friend or your wife? Your real. Because let's say hypothetically, if your wife slapped your best friend, you'd be like, babe, what happened? What are you doing? What's going on? You ain't gonna want to beat her. You ain't gonna. Your homie slapped your girl. You don't want to put hands on her. So he like, look, man, you thought she was gonna do what? Watch this, read.
As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
They cover. Man, I don't even want to look at this dude. Cover his face. Put something over his face. Read.
And Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also, the gallows 50 cubits high.
And then look, King, you ever seen like a curtain? Look what he made for Mordecai. Not only did he think he was going to do that, King, look what else he was about to do to Mordecai. Remember, the king just found out Mordecai saved his life. Now the king going to be real hot. Watch this, read.
Which Haman made for Mordecai, who has spoken good for the king.
He said he spoke good. Haman was about to kill him, and he saved your life. The Mordecai saved your life, and Haman was about to kill him. Read.
Standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon.
He's like, man, take Haman, and you hang him there. Read.
So they hang Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai.
And they hung Haman, killed him. All right, you know what I'm saying? Saved us from one of our main enemies. Somebody said this story. Oh, that's who was that? Saint Moshe? Somebody, who was that? Is that? I don't know who that is, but they said this story crazy. It is. It's a good story though. All right, read.
So they hang Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. There was the king's wrath.
Now the king is happy. All right, cool. We got rid of him. But wasn't he just the king's right hand man? He was just the king homie. But the fact that a woman was so submissive and loving to her husband, she was able to save her people and accompanied with the wisdom of her uncle. Understand? Read.
Chapter 8, verse 1.
8 and 1, yep.
On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews' enemy unto Esther the queen.
And you know what else he did? All of Haman's family, he gave them to Esther. They whatever. Now, think about this for a second. Didn't we just read that no woman, whether he's great or weak, can supersede a man? But the king just gave Esther all of Haman's house with his sons. What is that telling you? Esther had power over these men. Why? Because she knew her place with her husband. And he granted her that. And what did she do? Because Esther was ruthless. Now, Esther had what? She was submissive. She had humility. She had faith. She had courage. Right? But she was also ruthless. Because let's see what she did to Haman people. Read.
Verse 2. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther said Mordecai over the house of Haman.
And Esther said Mordecai over the house. Read.
And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet.
Now look at Esther. Esther still, she doing an excellent job. She is finessing this king. She didn't already got everything. She fell at his feet. Read. How many of y'all gonna fall at your husband's feet? None, probably. She fell at her husband's feet, or the king's feet. Women right now, I'm gonna fall on no man's feet. No. I just bow to Yahweh Shai. You ain't Yahweh Shai. Who is you? You not David. You know that's what Hebrew women say when they mad at their man. You not David. You not Yahweh Shai. I'm not bowing to you, but what does the scripture say? Who's the head of the man? And who's the head of the woman? The man. How many of y'all knew that if you pray something, how many of you sisters knew that when you pray, do you know your husband can stop your prayer? That's a law. Scripture says if you pray something and if you're under your father's house and your father hear it, your father can say, nah, this and know that. But when you get married, now your husband has the authority to disannul a request that you made to the Most High. Did you know that? Who knew that? You knew that? Come on. Because who's your head? Put it like this. Can we go to the Father without Christ? Can you go to Christ without your husband if you're married? No, you can't. Of course, if your husband is righteous. We're not talking about a wicked man. We're talking about a righteous man. No, absolutely not. Because the scriptures say, be continually with a godly man. So if you have a godly man that fears the Lord and keep these commandments, right? and you pray a prayer and he hears it, he's like, nah, that's not going down like that. He can literally stop your prayer. So she understanding this and understanding that she has to finesse this king because she has to save her people, she's still being submissive, right? Read.
Verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite.
Because remember, Haman still laid out a decree to do what? Kill all the Jews. Read.
And his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king and said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters revised by Haman, the son of Hamaditha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces.
So she's asking him to reverse this situation, right? What verse is that?
That was verse 5.
Yeah, keep on. Yeah.
Verse 6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come into my people? And how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him that have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring.
So the king couldn't take back the decree because the decree was already made out. But what the king said was, whatever you got to do to protect yourself, y'all do that. Read.
For the writing which is written in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month, that is, the month Sivan, on 3 and 20th day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded to the Jews and to the lieutenants.
All right, Con. So let's go from there. Go to Esther 8 and skip to the verse 16.
The book of Esther, chapter 8, verse 16. It's like the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor, and in every province and in every city.
So the Jews had favor. Read.
And whatsoever the king's commandment in his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
Now, ain't that something? In the book of Christianity, we got a celebration of people dying. Ain't that crazy? God loves everyone. You have to just love under the grace of God. You know how when Christians and pastors they make their voice soft like they're saying something powerful. Under the grace of God, the power of love, the love bestowed upon me from Christ Jesus. Hey, go what? I know it. I got it down pat. I right now I can get all y'all money right now. Boy, I was a preacher. I could preach. I could be a Pentecostal preacher. I could be a Baptist preacher. I could be whatever preacher you need me to be, because I didn't study that. That's what they do, though. We have the grace of God. We have to love. That was not what God wants. But literally, we got a celebration. We got a celebration of people dying. We happy while we killing people. Is that a good God? Yes, it is a good God. Saved his people. Come on. Oh, and it don't change in the New Testament, because you also got those Christians. That was the God of the Old Testament and the God of wrath. Does that even, like, he changed? Yeah. Does God change?
Nope.
No. So how the hell you got, that was the God of the Old Testament. The God of the New Testament is different. No, he's not. Didn't Christ say, those that do not serve me, bring hither and do what? Slay them before me. What does the famous Revelation say? Get that. Overcome shall have power over their enemies. Give me that. And he shall rule them and dash them. Give me that.
I got it.
Revelations 13, I think. Is it? Oh, wait. 2? Get that real quick.
God. The book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 25. But that which you have already, hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, To him will I give power over the nations.
But I thought everybody was equal.
To him will I give power over the nations.
So who is he giving power over the nations? This is the God of the New Testament. He said, I'm going to give you power over the nations. But I thought everybody was equal in Jesus Christ. Who are these he's giving power over the nations to? Read.
And he shall rule them with a rod of iron.
And he going to rule them with a rod of iron. You know what that means? That means he's going to rule them with vigor. Read.
As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers.
And he's going to break them into shivers. Does that sound like peace? He said, I'm going to rule them with those that overcome will have power to rule the nations with the rod of iron. He's going to dash them into pieces. That's the God of the New Testament, which sounds the same as the God of the Old Testament. Huh? The God of the Old Testament had somebody hung and then a celebration for it. And the God of the New said the nations, if they don't bow down, they're going to be dashed into pieces. But I thought we was all equal. That's another lesson, but I just want to get that. Let's go back real quick. We're almost done.
Chapter 9?
Yeah, go back to 9.
Verse 1.
Start at 1, yeah.
Esther chapter 9, verse 1.
And everybody was so scared, they was like, man, we gotta reverence these Jews, right? Read.
Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar.
And brothers, that Esther 9 and 17, it's a lot of history within that verse, because that's where you get the Hasmonean dynasty.
8 and 17.
All right. You go into the history of dealing with the Maccabees, and then you deal with like King Herod, right? So you had individuals becoming Jews, right? And all the way until you got to the Roman Empire. And this is how King Herod, which was an Edomite, got power over Israel. Why? Because he ended up getting a high seat within the nation of Israel, because he was accepting their customs. The Romans took over and they put him in power. Like, oh, you over there with we're not going to put a Jew over the Jews. We're going to put you that know their customs over those people. And that's how Herod got power. All right. That's why when they said the king of the Jews come, why was Herod scared? Because he knew he wasn't the rightful king of the Jews. So when a prophecy came and it was like the king of the Jews is coming, Herod got nervous. But that's another story in itself as well. But let's go to Esther 9:1.
Book of Esther chapter 9, verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put into execution, and the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities and throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people, and all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants, and the deputies, and the officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Then the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughtered and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
All praises to the Most High God. Get the Most High God in your class. And your enemies was destroyed. Most High had them put to death. Now let's go from there. We almost done. So that was we're going to see where we actually get the 13th, all right, and the 14th day, right? Where did that come from, and why you understand why we're going to keep it holy each year, but it was a decree that was made, all right, by Mordecai. So let's go from there. Go to verse 15. No, go to verse 10 real quick. Go to verse 10.
Verse 10. Then
I just want to get this, what happened to Haman's sons. Read.
The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand.
And all of Haman's sons got killed. Every single one of his sons got killed. All right. So that's what happened to Haman. Now, go to verse 15.
Verse 15. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day, also the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan.
So guess what happened? Not because it's the 13th, right? Today. The 14th. Guess what happened on the 14th of Adar? They were slew. People got slew. People got slain. People got put to death. Read.
And slew 300 men in Shushan.
Uh-huh.
But on the prey they laid not their hand.
Uh-huh.
But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives and had rest from their enemies and slew their foes 70 and 5,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
So we had a feast and we had gladness. Go from there. Go to keep reading. Yeah, keep going.
Verse 18. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Read.
Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another.
Read.
And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly.
So what days do we keep in honor of this day? Now, shh, you too loud. What day is it? Read it again.
To keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly.
Right. So it was commissioned to be a memorial yearly to keep the 14th day and the 15th as a day that we give gifts. You understand? We gave gifts one to another for gladness. So today, when you guys get these gifts, you're getting these gifts in honor of people that got killed. Let that sink in. So today, when everybody happy and like, oh, I got this, oh, you gave me that. Y'all getting that off the strength of people that were killed. No different than what America does with Thanksgiving. Don't y'all come together for Thanksgiving and all of that? And what about Independence Day? Independence Day, what did they do? Their independence against Great Britain. They had to kill some of the Britons. And you know it's crazy. Christians don't have no problem celebrating those days. Well, we don't celebrate those days. We celebrate the memorial of Simon. We celebrate the memorial of Purim, right? The Feast of Purim, the day of Purim. And we give gifts on this particular day, right? So this is our Christmas, if you want to say that. We give gifts and all of that. It's going to be a good time. Read.
Verse 22, as the days ran, the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned into them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning unto a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor.
You see that? Gifts to the poor, sending good portions to one to another, giving gifts one to another, giving gifts to the poor and the less fortunate. This is a day that we give gifts. So this is why we want to honor this day by giving gifts on this day, right? Let's go down to verse 28, and this will be it. We're going to read verse 28 to verse 32, and that's it.
Verse 28. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation.
So, you know, when you got those people that, you ain't got to keep the Feast of Purim. Why wouldn't you keep what your forefathers said should be kept? Under the Spirit of the Most High. Who gathered these words together? And he seen that it was important to put these days in here, so why would we not keep it? See that? That's low-key people that hate their own people in the truth. We honor these days because the Lord honored it. How do we know the Lord honored it? Because he saved us. He saved our people. We would have been all dead if Haman would have got what he wanted accomplished. Right? Read.
And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, and every province.
Every family, every generation. Some generations?
Every generation.
A little bit of generation.
Every generation.
Only the time during that time.
Every generation.
Every generation. So is this a generation? So we should keep it, right? Absolutely. Read.
Every family, every province, and every city. And that these days the Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
See that this is a memorial. So this is not a Sabbath where you have to not go to work and things of that nature. It's a memorial. That's why I looked up the definition. You remember when I looked up the definition of memorial? It's to remember something, an event, or a person. Remember that? And we remember a beautiful woman named Hadassah, aka Esther, and a strong man named Mordecai. We remember them for delivering us and the event of our enemies being killed and Haman being hung. So this is a memorial that we do. So even though y'all gotta go to work tomorrow, have a good time tonight. Hey, look, tonight I'm having a good time. You know, we gotta have a good time tonight. We gotta go. We gotta drink. We gotta toast up, and we gotta get these gifts, and we gotta have a fun. I think I seen who was performing in the back. Oh, the sisters y'all gonna perform a song today? Oh, and Jason. Get Jason in, cause good we got performances tonight, singing, dancing. We might get a rap from Vince. And I'll get up there with you if I need to. Huh? I might have a poem from Young Rob. We'll see. We'll see. We're gonna have a good time tonight. All right. Let's keep reading. Let's finish this up.
Verse
29.
Verse 29. Then Esther the queen and the daughter of Abihail and Mordecai the Jew wrote with all authority to confirm the second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters into all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim and their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
See that? So guess what? That means the king was like, hey, whatever y'all decree, that's what y'all decree. So the king allowed all of that. But the king would have never did that if Esther wasn't submissive. Esther wasn't right. Esther wasn't doing what she was supposed to do and knew her place and gained favor. You understand? Mordecai being a strong man that stood up to evil and stood up for righteousness. When has anybody been let down for standing up for righteousness? Huh? And I got to give the Most High a praise for this day, because last year this time, not last year this time, but this time, I said the Most High will give me a son this day. Remember that? And the Lord gave me a son. So this day is extra special to me because I remember that, because I believe that he would. Gave me a son, and I felt like that was a gift that the Lord gave me on this day. So thank you for that gift, Lord. Y'all remember that? Brothers was in here when I said I was going to name my son Mordecai. Now, I didn't name him Mordecai. I named him after me. But he could have the spirit of Mordecai. Never know. Never know. So thank you, Lord, for that gift. And everybody should thank the Lord. Everybody should thank the Lord for another day of life, breath. Don't forget the Lord in this day. Thank the Lord. Have fun, give gifts, enjoy, but reverence the Most High God. That's what we're here to do. We're here to reverence the Most High God. All praise to the Most High. All right, let's go ahead and pray it out. All right, family online, we love y'all. We hope y'all have a beautiful memorial, beautiful Purim. Give gifts and honor the Lord. We'll see you next time. Shalom, family. Blessings and peace and love.